Hey everybody, what's up? I thought I would share just a quick video about painting with, sorry, Montana Gold Chrome paints. So you can see Montana Gold, the brand, the sub-brand makes a chrome. That one's kind of a silvery chrome, and then they make a gold, okay? So these are both really cool paints. Montana originally started as kind of like a graffiti paint brand, and now crafters and makers and stuff make stuff with it. So a lot of people have maybe given feedback or complained about the gold chrome or the chrome paint not curing, not drying, not sticking properly, just running into problems with it. And so it was actually a few years ago. I mean, I'm sure the stuff existed long before I found it. I found it and then I started using it on some different props and things. And in particular, I shared a video where I tested the paint on some parts in like the C3PO builders group. And I never claimed like, oh, this is the perfect paint or something. It was just like, hey, if you're on a budget and you want to paint a gold chrome object, this is close. In actuality, the Montana Gold Chrome, in my opinion, it's a little bit too warm for C3PO. It's a very warm brass almost kind of color. And if you look at the cap, I don't know if you can tell the difference here, but the cap is actually more of a yellow gold, which is closer to what C3PO is. But we all know that this is actually vacuum metallized. It's not the paint that's actually on the can itself. So people were complaining about, oh, the paint never dries, it never cures. Sorry about the blue jay back there. And this is literally the first time I used it, okay? And I actually posted a video years ago. I painted these parts for this Mandalorian blaster rifle, and I prepped it just like I would normally all my other kind of painted projects. And and it's fine. So I get it. I hear people saying, oh, it doesn't last, it never dries, it leaves fingerprints, you leave it for a month, it leaves fingerprints. And I'll tell you right now, so I'm in the west coast of Canada, which in my opinion is one of the worst climates for painting anything. It's sort of end of summer right now, so it's warm, but normally it rains a lot here. There's a lot of humidity. Paints take forever to dry outside, so I have to paint them inside, in a garage or in a shop with a booth and all that kind of stuff. So I have a little bit of a luxury in that. I know most people just hop out, into their backyard or something, and parking lot, whatever, and try and paint their thing. Here's what I did, and I just want to show this right now, okay? So people are saying, I don't know if the camera can pick this up, but it's like, oh, it leaves fingerprints, you can scratch it. And I get it, this is from years ago, but this is literally the same, and I'm hitting it hard there, okay? It's not leaving any fingerprints or any marks, okay? It's not. Now, people, oh, well, it's soft and you can gouge your fingernail in it. Well, I'll tell you what, any other part, almost any other painted thing, if I scratched it with my fingernail, it's gonna leave a scratch, okay? I get it that some soft paints, especially if they're laid on too thick, you can kind of push into them, right? And that's kind of because of a couple of reasons. One, it's not dry and it maybe hasn't off-gassed. So that's two separate things, okay? So paint drying on the surface is one thing. Paint, like how we use lacquers mainly, rattle can lacquers, they have a solvent in them, and as that solvent evaporates, that's what causes the paint to dry, okay? If you can still smell the paint after it's dried, that's called off-gassing. So that's the smell of the vapors still coming out. Now, if you laid it on too thick, if you put on too many coats, if you put the coats on too close together in terms of time, the previous layers aren't going to have time to dry and cure and off-gas, okay? I find this is an extreme problem with Rust-Oleum paints, and that's kind of why I don't use Rust-Oleum. I haven't used Rust-Oleum in well over a decade. Their paints are notorious for laying on extra thick. It looks nice and glossy, but if you live in a bad climate and or if your preparation isn't good, it's not going to fully cure, it's not going to fully off-gas. Rust-Oleum also tends to have the effect of not playing well with other brands. So if you spray another brand on top or underneath, it can cause, rippling, curling, orange peel, all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to share what I do, okay? So I pretty much always use Duplicolor primers and a lot of Duplicolor paints. So in this particular case, I would have used Duplicolor black primer, and specifically it's called Black Hot Rod Primer. I don't know if you can see that, Black Hot Rod Primer. So I get it in the automotive section, auto repair shops, that kind of thing. It's obviously a little bit more expensive than regular paint, but in my opinion, it works really well. And I know that it's cross-compatible with Montana. So all I do is I usually prime. I'll lay down like a really thin coat, let it dry a minute, another thin coat, let it dry for 2-3 minutes, and then apply another coat. And you know, usually 3 coats is enough, right, for your primer, unless you're trying to fill a 3D print or something. That's a whole separate discussion. But after that's dried, and I might leave it for, you know, an hour tops, I'll go in with my Montana. So what I've been doing is I either paint it directly on the primer, and I honestly haven't had a problem. I tend to kind of like, I don't have a lot of time for things. I tend to rush stuff. I've used this directly on the primer and I've gotten a great finish. Absolute worst case, if that primer finish isn't 100% smooth and there might be some dust in it or whatever, take a fine Scotch-Brite pad, give it a little bit of a clean, blow off the dust, wipe it with a tack rag if you need to. So a tack rag is kind of like this sticky rag that they use in auto body, and it'll pick up any, you know, dust or any particles before you paint. And then shake this really well. Make sure that you are painting in a sort of room temperature environment, and the paint itself is also stored in the same temperature. Don't store this in a cold garage and then paint in a warm environment, and vice versa. Don't store it in a hot area out in the sun and then try to paint your object that's been sitting in the cold, you know, maybe underground in a garage, because you're playing with 2 different temperatures. Always try to keep the object that you're painting at the same temperature as your paint, okay? And same trick with this, okay? 1 light coat, and I might spray it like, you know, 8 to 10 inches away, light coat. Let it dry for like a couple minutes. Another light coat, let it dry for, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, and another light coat, okay? The problem I think that people see with this is they do that first coat and they're like, wow, it's so shiny, it's so chromy and reflective, I'm gonna go again, and they just keep doing it. And either they're laying on the coats too close together, and they're not letting the previous coats cure and fully, they're not gonna cure and fully off gas in a few minutes, but you gotta let it at least dry a bit before you start laying on more and more coats, okay? I only ever put like 3 coats of this on, and it's enough coverage. Usually by the second coat, most of your object's already covered in terms of making sure that it looks like gold. And then 1 more coat on top of that. That's it. That's all that there is to this. You can buy different caps and stuff that have different spray patterns. You can get ones that spray finer. I've actually never changed the caps on any of my Montana paints, and I've got a lot of them. I've painted my whole Mandalorian costume and all that kind of stuff with Montana, and I haven't had a problem. So again, a lot of it's just preparation with your part, right? And the conditions that you're painting in. Make sure your part's clean, prime it. I've had no problems with Duplicolor primer. If you really want to experiment, I mean, I have painted the gold chrome on top of 2K clear as well too. I don't really think it makes a huge difference. It definitely the surface is smoother. Another problem that you might run into with that though is that if your surface is too smooth and then you lay this Montana gold chrome on top, the surface doesn't have enough tooth or adhesion for the chrome, and sometimes that's not a good thing. So again, just be careful with that, right? You don't want to go back in necessarily and re-sand the wet coat. You might want to try again a light Scotch-Brite pad. You don't want to sand too much, because then because this is laying on really thin, you might actually start to see some of those sanding marks. So again, don't use sandpaper, use a fine Scotch-Brite pad, but do it really, really lightly. So again, just temperature, humidity, preparation, applying the right number of coats, and yeah, it's not a problem, okay? So if I can find it, I'll try to find the link to the original video I made where I painted these, and I actually, I painted them, I let them dry. I don't even think it's that long. I know that same afternoon I was filming a video with them, and I dropped them on the sidewalk twice, and there's like a little chip mark in the very, very corner. I don't even know. Oh, there. It's right there. There's like a chip mark there from it hitting the sidewalk, but like nothing else happened to it. There's a couple marks here that you see are from CA glue that I mistakenly dripped on here when I was gluing this down, but there's no fingerprints, it's not peeling off, right? There's no marks being left. Sorry, that's not it, that's dust. It's been fine. So again, if I live in the worst environment or climate for painting stuff, probably other people shouldn't have as many problems with this, but again, preparation, humidity, and thin coats. That is the key. Okay, so I hope that helps you out. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below, and good luck. Thanks.